Good morning, guys, and thanks for joining us for this month's End of Watch Memorial Ruck, where we're fixing to start off with the reading of the names for the line of duty deaths in June. We're set up a little different because we're trying our best to adhere to the guidelines for CDC with the social distancing. So this month's going to be a little different. We do have 16 officers down in June, and we'll be trying to ruck for as many of those as we can today. So we'll start with Lieutenant Stephen P. Williams, Moody Police Department, Alabama. End of watch Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. Lieutenant Stephen Williams was shot and killed while responding to a call for service at the Motel 8, 2451 Moody Parkway. While on scene, at least one suspect opened fire on him, fatally wounding him. Two subjects were taken into custody several hours later after barricading themselves inside of the hotel room. Lieutenant Williams was a U.S. Air Force veteran and had served with the Moody Police Department for 3 years and had 23 years of law enforcement service. He previously served with the Calera Police Department for 2.5 years, the Alabaster Police Department for 15 years, the Bessemer Police Department for 2.5 years. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. He was posthumously promoted to the rank of lieutenant, age 50, to her 23 years.
Police Officer Efren, Coronel. End of watch, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. Police Officer Efren Coronel died after contracting COVID-19 as the result of a confirmed exposure at the intersection of 8th Street and Main Street during the arrest of an offender who was positive. Officer Coronel had served with the El Centro Police Department for 24 years. He is survived by his wife and 2 children. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. Age 51, tour 24 years.
Sheriff Andy Clark, DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, Missouri. End of watch, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. Sheriff Andy Clark was killed in a vehicle crash at the intersection of Highway 36 and M Highway near Osborne while responding to an assisted deputy in an emergency situation. His patrol car collided with another vehicle at the intersection at 11:30 a.m. Sheriff Clark had served in law enforcement for 22 years with the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office in the Cameron Police Department. He is survived by his wife, 4 children, parents, and a brother. Tour 22 years, badge number 718.
Sergeant Damon Gutzwiller, Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, California. End of watch Saturday, June 6, 2020. Sergeant Damon Gutzwiller was shot and killed as he and other deputies investigated reports of a suspicious vehicle. Deputies had originally responded to reports of a suspicious vehicle that contained guns and bomb-making materials in the area of Jameson Creek and Boulder Creek. As they arrived at the scene, they observed the van driving away and followed it home to a home of Walden Drive in the Ben Lemon area. The vehicle pulled into the driveway and the occupant immediately ambushed the deputies with firearms and improvised explosive devices. Sergeant Gutzwiller was killed and the other deputy was wounded. The subject then carjacked a vehicle and fled the area. He was located a short time later and engaged officers in another shootout. A California Highway Patrol officer and the subject were both wounded before the man was taken into custody. Sergeant Gutzwiller has served with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office for 14 years. He is survived by his expectant wife and young child. He's 38 years old and his tour is 14 years.
Border Patrol Agent Johan Morden, United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, United States Border Patrol, U.S. Government. End of watch Thursday, June 11th, 2020. Border Patrol Agent Johan Mordan died while conducting a foot patrol in the remote area desert in the Boot Heel section of New Mexico. Other agents began searching for him after losing radio contact. They located him unresponsive in a rugged trail and immediately began CPR as they waited for a helicopter to transport him from the scene. Border Patrol Agent Mordan had only served with the United States Border Patrol for 11 months and was assigned to the Lordsburg Station. age 26, tour 11 months.
Corrections Officer Thomas Ogungbire, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas. End of watch, Thursday, June 11, 2020. Corrections Officer Thomas Ogungbire died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak at the Hutchins State Jail in Dallas County. Officer Ogungbire had served with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 10 years. He is survived by his wife and 2 children, age 54, tour 10 years.
Deputy Sheriff James H. Blair, Simpson County Sheriff's Office, Mississippi. End of watch, Friday, June 12, 2020. Deputy Sheriff James Blair was shot and killed while transporting a subject from an involuntary psychiatric evaluation at a mental health facility at 3087 Mississippi 13 in Mendenhall. The evaluation had just been completed, and Deputy Blair was placing the man back into the patrol car when he was attacked. The subject was able to gain control of Deputy Blair's service weapon and fatally shot him before fleeing on foot. The man was apprehended the following day. Deputy Blair had served in law enforcement for over 50 years. He is survived by his wife and grandsons, whom they are raising. He was predeceased by his daughter. Age 77, tour 50 years.
Police Officer Dale Thomas Provins Jr., Jefferson Hills Borough Police Department, Pennsylvania. End of watch, Saturday, June 13th, 2020. Police Officer Dale Provins succumbed to his injury sustained in a vehicle crash 10 days earlier in the 200 block of Old Clareton Road. An oncoming vehicle crossed the center lane and struck Officer Provins' patrol car head-on. Officer Provins was flown to a hospital in Pittsburgh where he succumbed to his injuries on June 13th. Officer Provins was a U.S. Marine Corps and Pennsylvania Army National Guard veteran of Operation Desert Storm and Operation Desert Shield. He had served with the Jefferson Hills Borough Police Department for 15 years and was a third-generation police officer. He is survived by his daughter, fiance, parents, and siblings. Tour, 15 years, badge number 23.
Wildlife Officer Julian Keane Jr., Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Florida. End of watch, Saturday, June 14th, 2020. Julian Keane Jr. Wildlife Officer Julian Keane was shot and killed in LaBelle when he attempted to stop a hit-and-run suspect while off duty. Hendry County deputies located Officer Keane's body after responding to the reports of a shooting near the intersection of Nobles Road and Apache Circle. 3 subjects were taken into custody. Officer Keane has served with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission for 6 years, age 30, tour 6 years.
Police Officer Destin Legieza, Brentwood Police Department, Tennessee. End of watch, Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Police Officer Destin Legieza was killed in a vehicle crash on Franklin Road between Murray Lane to Concord Road shortly before 6 a.m. A drunk driver traveling in the opposite direction crossed the center line and struck Officer Legieza's patrol SUV head-on. The other driver sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The driver was charged with vehicular homicide by intoxication. Officer Legieza had served with the Brentwood Police Department for 5 years and was a third-generation law enforcement officer. He is survived by his wife, age 30 years.
Police Officer Michael Lee, Navajo Division of Public Safety, Tribal Police. End of watch, Friday, June 19th, 2020. Police Officer Michael Lee died after contracting COVID-19 during a presumed exposure while on duty. Officer Lee had served with the Navajo Division of Public Safety for 29 years and was assigned to the Chinle Police Department. He is survived by his wife and children. Tour, 29 years.
Assistant Chief Gail Green-Gilliam, Phoenix City Police Department, Alabama. End of watch, Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. Assistant Chief Gail Green-Gilliam died after contracting COVID-19 as the result of a presumed exposure during an outbreak within the Phoenix City Police Department. She was taken to a hospital in Columbus, Georgia, where she remained on a ventilator for several weeks. Assistant Chief Green-Gilliam had served with the Phoenix City Police Department for 30 years. She is survived by her husband, son, 2 daughters, grandchildren, and siblings. Assistant Chief Green-Gilliam had also been the foster parent for special needs children and adults. Age 56, tour 33 years.
Master Detention Deputy Lynn Jones, Lake County Sheriff's Office, Florida. End of watch, Wednesday, June 24th. Master Detention Deputy Lynn Jones died after contracting COVID-19 and a presumed exposure during an outbreak at the Lake County Jail at 441 West Main Street in Tavares. At the time of Deputy Jones' exposure, 18 staff members and over 100 inmates had tested positive. Deputy Jones had served with the Lake County Sheriff's Office for 13 years. He is survived by his wife and 3 daughters.
Correctional Officer Richard Bianchi, California Department of Corrections and Rehab, California. End of watch Thursday, June 25th, 2020. Corrections Officer Richard Bianchi was killed in a vehicle crash on Highway 44, 4 miles east of Old Station Road near Redding. He was en route from the High Desert State Prison to Redding Hospital to perform guard duty for an inmate at the hospital. His department vehicle left the roadway and overturned, causing him to suffer fatal injuries. Officer Bianchi had served with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation for 10 years. He is survived by his wife and 2 adult children. Age 53, tour 10 years, badge not available.
Sergeant Dale Multer, Travis County Constable Office, Precinct 5, Texas. End of watch Saturday, June 27th, 2020. Sergeant Multer died after contracting COVID-19 in the line of duty while serving civil papers. Age, tour, and badge not available.
Sergeant Craig Johnson, Tulsa Police Department, Oklahoma. End of watch Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. Sergeant Craig Johnson succumbed to gunshot wounds sustained the previous morning when he was shot multiple times during a traffic stop near the intersection of East 21st Street and South 89th East Avenue. An officer on Sergeant Johnson's squad had conducted the traffic stop at 3:30 a.m. and determined the vehicle had to be impounded. The driver refused to exit the vehicle, and despite the use of de-escalation techniques and non-lethal force, including pepper spray and taser, as Sergeant Johnson and the other officer continued their attempts to remove the driver, the man reached under the driver's seat and retrieved a handgun. He opened fire on both officers, striking each multiple times in the head and torso. The man then fled the scene with the assistance of a friend whom he had called for help during the traffic stop. The subject was arrested later in the day and subsequently charged with first-degree murder. The friend who aided his escape was charged with being accessory to a felony. The other officer who was shot remains in critical condition. Sergeant Johnson had served with the Tulsa Police Department for 15 years, age 45, tour 15 years. I believe that was the last one on the roster currently for June. If you're still with us on the live feed, I want to thank everybody for coming out. There's some that aren't on camera that have come out to honor the fallen. If you're still with us, thank you for your support. If you're not in law enforcement, your support right now means the world. There's law enforcement in general is coming under some heavy attack, and it's really affecting a lot of my peers. It's making them wonder why they went into this job and have to constantly remind themselves. Luckily, here in our community, we have a lot of support of the community here, and everybody comes together, and it's really good. We're very blessed here. If you are in law enforcement, know that you have people like these people that are coming out to support you. They're not only honoring the fallen, but they are showing their support for those still on watch by putting the weight on their back, showing they're willing to help carry that weight that's on your shoulders and carry it at the extra mile. They're putting blisters on their feet and sweating it out hard for you. So you have the support. just keep doing what you're doing, plugging away, and y'all take care.